He just does things the way he wants and he won't take no and he figures it out. And that is something that is really powerful for somebody who's trying to muster their way through building their business by themselves.
Welcome back to Foos Files, the podcast for fans of the Foo Fighters. We've been waiting and waiting and waiting. Something brewing in Foo Fighters world, it seems. We know some sort of announcement is imminent, but all we have so far is Weird Al Yankovic. The band have been teasing us since late last week now with some studio pictures and a call to action to sign up to their newsletter for some information. But yeah, they're keeping us on tenterhooks. One little nugget is that they've sort of confirmed Ilan Rubin now as the new drummer by way of being able to identify his shoes in the photographs. So that's one little carrot of information to cling on to. It's now Wednesday evening here in the UK at the time of posting this episode. The last post we had from the band was a very random clue that said weird frequencies and a picture of what seems to be Weird Al Yankovic dressed as Dave. So come on boys, just spill the beans now. We're all gagging to know what's going on. Anyway, in the meantime, we've got another interview this week with a fellow podcaster and an entrepreneur, Matt Dietz from Idaho in the US. Matt and I connected some time ago after I came across a couple of his blog posts about the Foo Fighters. We discovered we'd got a few things in common, so I invited him on to talk about how Dave Grohl has inspired him in the way he's built his business. So let's go over to that interview and we'll stay on red alert for when the announcement eventually drops. Matt, welcome. How's it going?
It's going well, Dan. Thank you so much for the invite. I'm excited to talk some music.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on. Do you want to tell the listeners where it is you're talking to us from today?
Yeah, I'm coming in from the United States to the state of Idaho, which is in the Pacific Northwest.
Yep, but right in the mountains. Before we get started on all things Foo Fighters, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, yeah. I'm a small business owner. I own an insurance agency of all things, and I've been doing that for 20 years. I got into the podcasting space about 10 years ago, which is great. So this stuff comes really naturally to me. I've been married 22 years to a wonderful, beautiful woman, and I've got an 18-year-old boy and a 16-year-old girl. I like to golf. I like to drink coffee. I love the Foo Fighters. Yeah, that's a small bio about me to get you started.
Excellent. And I gather you've got Foo Fighters lyrics on the wall in your office. Is that right?
I do. I have times like these, and I have a huge picture of Dave thrashing around on his guitar behind me. So whenever I do video footage or when I'm doing video podcasts, you could see him directly behind me. It's kind of fun.
So which lyric is it from times like this? Is it like a one-liner or is it like a lyric sheet?
It's the whole song.
It's the whole song. Oh, great. Amazing. Why that song? Any particular reason or?
Yeah, I was searching for stuff to decorate my office in, and I wanted to make it personal. And so I have some stuff in here from things that I love. And so I was just honestly searching for Foo Fighters pictures or lyrics, and that one came up. Times like these it's a timeless song about hope and something that's we've all gone through times in our life where those lyrics really hit home, and I just like having it on the wall, and I walk by it 15 times a day, and it's such a positive song. And that song's meaning has changed so much over the past many years. I mean, it meant something different, during COVID. It meant something very different, when Taylor passed. And so, yeah, it's a beautiful song that can morph into whatever you need it to be,
Yeah, that provides a nice little segue, really, because as a bit of context for listeners, the reason we connected, it was obviously because of a mutual love of the Foo Fighters, but Then we discovered we got a few things in common, like content creation, podcasting. But it was because you posted on a Facebook group about a blog that you wrote about the Taylor Hawkins tribute show at Wembley, and the blog was called "My Friends Saved My Life," and it really touched a lot of people, including myself. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, when Taylor died, I mean, I've been a diehard Foo Fighters fan from the day they were born. I graduated, actually my freshman year in college was 1991, when grunge did its thing. And so it really got into my DNA quickly. And so I followed Dave ever since he was, the drummer from Nirvana. And so and I just love his music. I love the way he goes about things. And so I followed his career. And when I fall in love with something, I usually do deep dives. Like I want to know like what he ate for breakfast back in 1970, 1997 or something like that. So I'll watch all the documentaries, I'll read all the articles, and I'll consume as much as I can. And over time, he became a kind of the band became kind of a formal part of my life. And I know that sounds a little weird, but to true fans, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? So
Sure.
so when Taylor passed, it hit us all like really pretty hard, and I had to do some reflecting on why it was affecting me so much. And with all the research and reading that I've done, I know that Dave and Taylor were like brothers, and they were really, really like best friends, and even beyond that. And what I came up with, the reason it hit me so hard is that I had people in my life, friends in my life, that I had relationships that mirrored Dave and Taylor, and they helped me through some very difficult times. They helped me become who I am as a person. They helped give me confidence, and they're lifelong friends of mine. And I just could not imagine losing one of them. And so I think my heart just went out to Dave, and I put myself in his shoes, and I felt real pain for him. And so I've been trying to do some more writing and expressing myself, and this was an opportunity for me to put pen to paper. And I wrote something that came out. It was very organic. It was emotional, and it turned out really well. And so I share it where I can, or where I think other people would benefit from it. And you read it, and it hit you. It struck some chords with you, and you reached out. And so yeah, I mean that's kind of how that all happened.
Yeah, I think that's why it resonated with me too, because I guess there's an overriding sort of theme there that I took away from it anyway. That the reason like that most of us love this band, it goes beyond the music. It's about the friendships and the personalities in the band, and particularly Dave and Taylor's relationship. And then when Taylor passed away, it made a lot of people, I guess, who love the band reflect on their own friendships, and actually what a gift it is to have somebody that you call a best friend.
Yeah, and then obviously the show itself was really powerful. When they finally took the stage and he tried to muster through times like these. I mean, it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking, right, to see him break down. I knew that they were going to start with that song. I was almost afraid they were going to start with that song because I knew, what meaning that song took at that moment in time. Like I remember when they opened Madison Square Garden, I think it was 2021 after COVID. It was the first live show at Madison Square Garden after COVID. They opened with Times Like These, and it had such a celebratory feel. It's that again, that song is really, it's like a chameleon. It can fit different things. Like people play it at their weddings, right? And so to see it at Madison Square Garden played in a moment of celebration, and then to see it played in a moment of real mourning, it was really heartbreaking. And to see all the bands that came out to support, and the crowd, and the way they helped him get through that. Well, that's some of the stuff I wrote about. But yeah, it was pretty intense.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a good point about times like these, because the Madison Square Garden version, it's exactly the same version of the song that they do, with kind of Dave and Rami starting off slow, and then the band comes in. It's exactly the same version they did at the Wembley gig. But as you say, two completely contrasting emotional states that you're in, and it's astonishing that, as you say, that the same song can do that.
Yeah, it's really unique that way. I don't know how many songs. A lot of songs are about love, and there are songs about heartbreak, but I don't know how many songs there are that can really change meaning like that. It's really interesting. That's why it's on my wall.
shit, this place is fucking packed. When was the last time you went to a place that was fucking packed?
Yeah, and also, as you mentioned, the Taylor gig, I mean, I was rereading your blog earlier just as a bit of prep for this, and it really was a double hit of emotion because you go into your sort of deep personal experiences with your friends, but then it brought that show back to me, and I think from what I read about your experience, I had a kind of a similar experience of it where my wife and I watched it at home, wall to wall, for 6 hours, and I think times like these, and then also Everlong when Dave closed the show on his own.
Yeah.
I don't think I've cried so much since I was about 10 years old when my granddad passed away. I literally do not think I've shed a tear over anything as much as I did that day.
Yeah. Yeah. I was the same way. I was holding back, and you let it go. It was I was with my 15-year-old daughter at the time, and she had to come over, and she sat next to me and she saw me struggling, and she had to console me, and I was totally overcome with emotion. It was, I don't know if that was I knew it was going to be hard to watch. I knew it was going to be tough because we were all so sad. And so it was also interesting to have it it's hard to have a celebration of somebody's whose life ended so prematurely and who was so beloved. It was hard. Yeah, it was really tough.
Absolutely. Now, I wanted to pivot onto another perspective that you have on the band, which is something I find really fascinating and probably something not a lot of people would have considered, but it relates to something else that you wrote for your business. And you said that basically you consider Dave to be the ultimate entrepreneur, and whereas most business owners would look at a Steve Jobs or a Bill Gates or Tony Robbins or someone like that, for you it's Dave Grohl who's inspired you to be an entrepreneur. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your take on that one?
Yeah, it probably wasn't until I watched the documentary Back and Forth where I really started to understand the depth of his creativity. And actually, I did listen to a podcast too. I don't know if you know who Sam Jones is, but he did a long form podcast with Sam Jones where he tells just stories and how he did what he did. Dave just did everything by himself. He talks about how when he was creating music when he was younger in the punk scene, they would make records by themselves and they would do their own fanzines, and they did everything by hand and organically. Nobody ever taught them how to do it. And so he always had this in his DNA to just, if he wanted to do something, he would figure out a way to make it happen. And that's something that can be really important when you're trying to run your business, because when you're starting to run a business, even when you're in the middle of it, you're still making stuff up on the fly. You're trying new things. You're tinkering with your business. You're doing things differently. And watching Back and Forth. And then if you saw Sound City, have you seen Sound City?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he talks about making Sound City with Sam Jones, and he says, I wanted to make this documentary about this really important studio where we filmed Nevermind, and it's really that studio has like a Mount Rushmore of albums that were created in this dumpy dive studio in Van Nuys, California, and so he wanted to pay homage to it. He wanted to do like a 20-minute short on YouTube and just kind of do a little dedication, but it took on a life of its own. And he said that he wrote down kind of from point A to point B what he wanted this film to look like. And he also didn't want any help from anyone in Hollywood. He was like, I want to do this by myself. And he did. And if you've seen it, it's wonderful. It's outstanding. And then, obviously, Dave does things the way he wants to. He bought the board and he invited a bunch of people that recorded there to collaborate on songs. He put out a great soundtrack. And so he did songs with Trent Reznor and Josh Homme and Stevie Nicks and all these great performers that recorded.
Paul McCartney is there as well.
McCartney. Yeah, it's just incredible. And so like he just does things the way he wants, and he won't take no, and he figures it out. And that is something that is really powerful for somebody who's trying to muster their way through building their business by themselves. So I was like, you know what? He really inspired me. The other thing, he was the fifth drummer of Nirvana. And, for me, I have employees in my office and I had a hard time finding people that were going to be good working for me. So I'm just going through, I try this person, I had to fire him. I try that person, I have to fire him. And, it took me a long time to find my right team. But knowing that Dave was the fifth drummer in Nirvana gave me a little bit of peace. I'm like, this takes time to get it right. And so all these little things that he has done throughout his career, not just making music, he's made documentaries. What he did with, what was the documentaries that he did with on HBO that turned into
Sonic Highways,
Sonic Highways?
Yeah.
God, what an incredible project, I love all, like, he's so creative and he just does whatever he wants and he has confidence and he goes forward and figures it out. And I really, my drum beats to the same beat. I don't follow the pack with the way that I run my business. I do things differently than my peers. I want to stand out. There's a lot of competition in what I do, and you have to be able to stand out. And so that's why I'm probably one of the only insurance owners that does a podcast. There aren't many of us that do our podcast. So he's given me license to be creative and to do things differently. And that's what I've taken from watching his career.
Yeah. Well, I had a good ponder about this, thinking about Dave in like entrepreneurial terms, having read your material about it, because although I'm not a business owner, I do manage people and I'm always looking at relating stuff to cultural references, a bit like we've just discussed. And there was a couple of things that you mentioned, Sonic Highways and Sound City, actually. And I think one of those things that jumped out to me as well, that these documentaries illustrate, is that he's a man of detail as well, into which really matters, particularly in the job that I do in the media. He goes all in on his subject matter, and as you see in these documentaries, where he's kind of playing the interviewer as well as the musician, he's so studious about the music that he loves and the musicians that he loves, and he's just a sponge of knowledge about the Beatles and Zeppelin and all those people that you talked about that he has in the Sound City film too.
Yeah, he really does. He takes a deep dive. He cares so deeply. He loves music so much. It's like his religion, right? That's kind of the way that I see it. And he loves it so he believes in the kind of a thread that is woven through some of the things that he's written about and some things he's talked about, is how music brings people together, how it's imperfect, how you can put 3 or 4 or 5 people in a room, create something out of thin air, play it perfectly, but it can be beautiful, and it can resonate with, in this case, millions of people. And he says there's nothing more powerful than filling a room, whether it's a club or an arena or a stadium, with thousands of people who all are there for one reason. And, in a world where we're so divided in so many things, the musical landscape can be such a great space to be in, because everybody in one room is there loving one thing together. And that's not something that's easily found right now in the world that we live in, right? I mean, I know Taylor Swift has done what she's done, but what she has accomplished over the past 2 years, and the stadiums that she's filled, and the love that, that comes out of those shows, I think is powerful, and I think it's important. And I think we have more in common than any of us are willing to admit. And I think we need more and more of that. And bands like, the Foos and the fans that they have, you and I are talking about the food. You live in a different country and we're talking about this because we have a shared love. And it's so, I'm honored just to know you and to meet you. And I think this is wonderful. And it's all because of the Foo Fighters.
This band. Yeah, I absolutely echo that. Absolutely right back at you with that. And even from just in the early days of starting up this podcast, I've already spoken in the space of a couple of weeks I've chatted with yourself in Idaho, someone in Seattle, someone in Australia. I've got someone in Argentina lined up to speak to. And it's, as you say, it's through this band who's kind of making the whole world a bit smaller and more united, as daft as it sounds, but it's incredible.
I agree. Good for you. I mean, we live in such an interesting, exciting time where we were able to do this. We couldn't have done this 10, 15 years ago. No. So I think it's great. I like being able to Yeah, it does. You're right. It makes the world a little bit smaller and a little more peaceful and a little more kind. And I'm all for all of that.
Yeah, sure. So the sort of Dave Grohl, the entrepreneur, then, and that inspires your business and your business outlook. Do you impart this onto your staff and colleagues then that you work with, or are they like, oh, not the Foo Fighters again?
No, they all know that I'm a big fan. And so, like, whenever an album comes out, it's kind of like a holiday. They're like, oh, God, we're going to be hearing this new album for the next month or so and stuff like that in the office. So, I want my team, to feel like a family, just like he wants his band. He takes care of his bands. They're really tight, and I've wanted to pull that over and make my team feel the same way he makes his band feel. It's comfortable, safe. Let's work hard. Let's put out a good product. Let's take care of people and do our thing and do it well. And so that's the message that I try and infuse into my team. And I want to be a leader like that. I want people to feel comfortable coming in here. I want them to be excited to go to work. And so I try and provide a comfortable, safe, fun, hardworking atmosphere where we can get our job done, and they want to come back the next day.
Yeah, and I think there's a humility about Dave Grohl as well that we all just aspire to be that way.
Yeah, and I know you've read his book. I bought the book and I listened to the audiobook because I like to hear him talk. But all the story, but yeah, the humility really comes out in the book, where he tells a story about meeting Elton John. And they're like, get out of the car and go say hi to Sir Elton John. He's like, who are you talking? Who are you kidding? He doesn't know who I am. Like, he doesn't quite he appreciates everything that has come to him from what he says. And he's like a kid in a candy store. He can't believe the life that he's living. He knows how lucky he is. He's also suffered great loss at an early age, obviously with Kurt, and his mom and Taylor died the same year. And so I think he really appreciates life day to day. He says it. He's like, after Kurt died, his perspective on life changed immediately. He's like, well, I'm still here and I'm lucky to be here and I'm blessed to be here. And from what I can tell, that's the way that he's chosen to live his life, day to day, be grateful for it, appreciative. He's kind to other people. I've never met him, but that's just the way. I think it's great that he puts that out, and that's the way he's seen.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've gone pretty deep here, so we're going to lighten things up a little bit and just go. You alluded to you got into the band through you're into grunge, so obviously you followed Dave in Nirvana, like a lot of people. The Foo Fighters start, you like, oh, it's Dave Grohl from Nirvana, so it piqued your interest. Can you remember your first recollection of hearing a Foos song, what it was that made you fall in love with the band?
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw Dave was when he was in Nirvana, and it was when the Smells Like Teen Spirit video dropped, and everybody saw it 1,000 times. I didn't pay attention too much to Kurt or Chris. I was watching the guy behind the kit. I was like, who is that guy who is trying to destroy those drums in the back? I could not take my eyes off of him. I'd never seen a drummer like that before. And it really helped me fall in love with that band a little bit more. Most people don't know who the drummers are, and they pay attention to the lead singer and or the lead guitarist, depending on the type of music. But there aren't many drummers that their names of, unless you're a true fan of the band. So it was 95 when his first album, when the Foo Fighters self-titled album came out. And it was a buddy of mine. He's like, Matt, you got to listen to this. It's the Foo Fighters. He goes, it's Dave Grohl, the drummer from Nirvana. And I was like, oh, really? And I think probably like everybody else, I was like, well, that's interesting. He made an album. He sings on it. He plays the other thing. He sings on it, plays guitar on it, plays bass, and plays drums. And I never heard of anything like that before. So I was in awe even before I heard a note. I was like, that's incredible. Because if you look at the liner notes, it says bass, drums, vocal, guitar, Dave Grohl. And I've never seen anything like that before. And then, yeah, This Is a Call comes on, and a lot of the Foo songs, they start off really slow, they're melodic, and then they explode. So many of their songs are like that, and it grabs you. There's a hum background, this sonic wave that goes throughout all of their music, and I love it's almost like you're wearing the music. That's the only way I can really explain it. If you turn it up loud enough and it just kind of envelops you. I love the low sonic hum of the electric guitar, and he does it as well as anybody. So yeah, and then it was then the next song and the next song and the next song, and the album's over and whatever 38 minutes, and you kind of come out of your musical meditative state and you're like, I gotta listen to that again. And yeah, so that's, and from there I was hooked. I bought every album since.
Yeah. So when was it that you kind of, you said you really deep dive into everything like this that you love? When was it that the kind of connection you got with them now really fixed and you went like, yeah, this guy, he's not just an amazing musician, he's talking a language to me that really resonates.
Yeah, that's a good question. So obviously the first album came out in 95, and then their second album, Color and Shape, comes out in 97. And they keep putting out music that I enjoy. I'm trying to think. It was probably when I heard that interview or watched the documentary Back and Forth, which was right around the time Wasting Light was coming out, which came out in 2011. And I think Wasting Light might be my favorite album of theirs. And so all of that happened I saw the documentary, and that's when, Dave's pretty private. He's pretty private, he doesn't do social. You don't see a lot of him outside of just playing music or recording music. And so when he started talking and I started hearing just his views on the way he built his band and his views on life, that's when it really sunk in that I felt a kind of kinship with him. So it's probably around 2011 when I was like, all right, this guy's a totally different cat. I've always enjoyed his music, but I saw a greater depth to him once I kind of quote unquote got to know him a little bit more that way.
Yeah. Brilliant. So, and what about shows? Have you managed to get many Foos shows over the years, or?
Yeah, I saw them once as 2018. It was the Concrete and Gold tour. They came here through Idaho. They hadn't played here for, gosh, I think since 97 or so. Like it's been a long time since they've been here. And so yeah, they played over 3 hours. It was an outstanding show. We had pretty good seats. I'm a big Bob Mould fan.
This is a song off the record, Wasting Light. Bob sang with us. We did it at my house in my garage. It's called Dear Rosemary. It sounds like this.
Probably bigger than most. He's got a really rich career, tons of solo work. Anyway, Bob opened for the Foos on that night. He opened for them on 3 shows, and I felt like they put that show together personally for me because they're like my top 2 performers. And so it was really pretty special to see that. And then we did have tickets to see them in August of 2022, but I think the tour got canceled because of Taylor. So we were going to go see him, but that fell through, unfortunately.
Goodness gracious. He knows the words better than I do. The fuck is that shit?
Well, Matt, it's been absolutely brilliant to chat to you. I've really loved chatting to you learning about you and chatting all things Foos as well. Before we go, do you want to just give us a quick plug for your own podcast for anyone who's listening who might want to go and check that out?
Sure. I do. If anybody out there is in the insurance space and is running an insurance agency, I do one called Agency Watch, where I talk about all things running an insurance. Being a small business owner is hard, and it's not just what I do is not just sell insurance. So you have to sell the insurance. You have to be able to be excellent at marketing, and that's something I've studied and learned really well over time. You have to be a great leader and teacher and build a team. So I talk a lot about staffing and what that is. And then you also have to give great customer service to retain your clients. And so those are the 4 things that I really talk about. I've been doing that for 3 or 4 years. I put out 1 a week. There's 250 episodes. So if you want to hear me, all my episodes are short. They're like 5 to 10 minutes, and that's done on purpose. So they're very snackable. And so if anybody wants to check that out, it's called Agency Launch. It's on every platform that you can think of. So check it out. Oh, and one other thing, Dan, if people do want to read what I wrote that got you here, my blog is called dietzagency.com, Dietz agency.com. And I do have there's a section there called entrepreneurial musings, and I'll find a couple of things I've written about Dave if you guys want to find that.
Yeah, well, we'll post it in the notes and stuff so people can check it out. Brilliant. Well, yeah, thanks so much, Matt. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, Dan, this is great. I was so stoked when I got your message, and I'm glad we finally got the chance to make it happen. And good luck. I think this is a great. We talk about doing podcasts. We talked about it earlier, I think offline, and finding a niche. This is a great niche, and I hope you find a lot of joy, meet a lot of great people, and continue preaching the word of the Foos.
Great to talk to Matt about his Foos story and how the music and Dave's creativity has inspired his approach to business. We did this some time ago now, but the message and the sentiment behind it still rings true. Once again, thank you for listening to Foos Files. I'm about to head off on holiday to celebrate an important birthday, actually, but we'll still be dropping a pre-recorded episode next Wednesday, with or without an official announcement from the Foo Fighters. And don't forget to rate and review the show if you're enjoying it. Until next time, I hope you have a great week.